This unit is going to be over the legislative branch, and we've talked about this before. It is Article 1 of the Constitution, and we call our legislative branch Congress. Um, so, when the Founding Fathers created our new government, remember they were very, very weary and fearful of a very strong executive. So much so that in the Articles of Confederation, they didn't even create an executive. So when we have the Constitutional Convention and we're creating this new government, they put Article 1 first um, in the Constitution, and they wrote more about it than any other article, including the other two branches of government. So um, we're going to talk just a little bit about three amendments that we're going to add. The first one here is the 17th Amendment. Originally, in the Constitution, when they created the bicameral legislature, the House was going to be chosen by the people, but the senators were going to be chosen by the state legislature. And the reason for that is because they wanted the House to represent the people, but they also wanted the states to maintain or have some sort of say in the federal government. So the senators were originally intended to represent the interests of the states. Some people felt that this wasn't very democratic, and so we have the 17th Amendment where now the people choose their senators just like they do their members in the House of Representatives. The 20th Amendment, which is also known as the Lame Duck Amendment, changes the start date of Congress and presidential inauguration. There used to be a longer span of time between when we had the elections in November and when the new Congress started and when the president took office. So we don't have that long period of time. The president used to be inaugurated in March, so you had November, December, January, February, and then part of March before the new president took office. That's a long time for somebody who is not going to be the next president to continue to stay in office. So currently, all of the members of Congress and the president who won't be serving in the next term are what are considered lame duck. So we are currently in a lame duck session of Congress because all of those who were not reelected won't be there come January 3rd. So the lame duck amendment, what it does is shortens up that period of time between the election and when the new term starts. 27th Amendment, Congress gives itself pay raises. And so the 27th Amendment says that congressional pay raises do not go into effect until after an election. This 27th Amendment was part of the original 12 amendments that were part of the Bill of Rights that were sent to the states to get ratified. We know that only 10 of them were ratified. So the 27th Amendment was literally proposed in 1789 but was not ratified until 1992. Some general information about Congress. Once again, it is Article 1. We know because of the Connecticut Compromise, we created a bicameral legislature. So we have two houses because the Virginia plan wanted it based on population. The New Jersey plan wanted it based on equal representation. So Roger Sherman comes along, proposes the Connecticut Compromise, so we have a bicameral legislature. Starting with that first Congress way back in 1789, each Congress has been numbered consecutively, so we will get ready to start the 115th Congress on January 3rd, 2017. A term of Congress is 2 years, and that's because the House of Representatives serves for 2 years. So we could theoretically have an overturn of all 435 members every 2 years. So a term of Congress is 2 years, numbered consecutively, and we are currently in, or we will be getting ready to start the 115th Congress. House of Representatives is also known as the lower house. We know that representation is based on population. They are intended to represent the interests of the people, and this is part of the Connecticut Compromise. There are 435 members in the House, and we'll talk about where that number comes in a minute. Each state is guaranteed to have at least one member in the House of Representatives. Remember, we fought a war for representation. We are going to make sure that every state has some sort of say in Congress, and there are 7 states that have only one. Indiana currently has 9 members in the House of Representatives, and we currently live in the 2nd District. Both of those things can change, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes also. Um, House members, like I said, serve for 2 years. The intent of that is to make them closer to their constituents, more aware of what the people that they represent are wanting. And that's what a constituent is. That is a person who is being represented. So we are the constituents of our senators, of our representative in the House of Representatives, of the president. We are the ones who are being represented. So you'll hear them talk about needing to find out what their constituents want. Sometimes we get things in the mail that asks us questions in survey form, and we can send that back. So they need to know how the people or their constituents feel on any given issue, so they know how to vote on those particular things. But the purpose of them serving that short amount of time is to be more aware of what their constituents want, and that they can be influenced more. They know that we're not going to forget in 2 years, and that we're going to be able to vote them out if they're not doing what they want. There are currently no term limits on how long they can serve. So yes, they serve a 2-year term, but they can run as many times as they want to. And there have been some states who have created laws that have limited the number of terms that a representative can serve. But these have been challenged. They have gone all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has ruled that term limits are unconstitutional. There is nothing in the Constitution that limits them, so the states can't either. There are 3 constitutional requirements to be a member of the House of Representatives. You have to be 25 years old, you have to be a citizen of the United States for 7 years, and you also have to live in the state that you are running for office. Not a requirement that you live in the district that you're running, but it would probably be a good idea if you did. We're going to talk about reapportionment real quick. Every 10 years, we take a census, and we have to count everyone in the whole entire United States. And what reapportionment is just redistributing or realigning those 435 members in the House of Representatives. That number is a permanent number. It was created by the Reapportionment Act of 1929. And what was happening was every 10 years when they took the census, obviously the population was continuing to grow. We get to 435 members, and obviously the more people that you have trying to make decisions, the harder it is to come to a decision. So they decided that they were not going to increase the number anymore because it was just getting too large. So we're going to set that number at 435. The other thing that this act does is it allows the Census Bureau to tell the states how many seats that they will have in the House of Representatives. So 2 censuses back, we had 10 members in the House of Representatives. After the census, we actually went down to 9, but it wasn't because we lost population, it was because other states had gained a lot more. So they took one of our representatives and gave it to another state. So we currently have 9 members in the House of Representatives, but like I said, every 10 years, depending on where the population shifts to, those numbers change. What we're looking at here is a map of Louisiana, and you're looking at the 4th district there in yellow. Once the Census Bureau takes the census, they tell the states this is how many districts and representatives you're going to have. Then it's the state legislature themselves who get to draw the maps. And you have to remember, just like we have politics and political parties at the national level, we also have that at the state level. So the parties get to draw maps, and then they vote on them. So the party that has the majority, their map is going to win. So what you will see the majority do is to somehow draw these districts so they can carry as many seats as they possibly can. So anytime you see a very odd-shaped district like that, you know that this map has been what's called gerrymandered. And we'll talk about in class. And actually, I have a video that you'll be watching that goes into a lot more detail about gerrymandering. But gerrymandering itself is where you draw these odd-shaped districts so that the party that is in power can either do a couple of things. They can concentrate one party in one district, And so let's say that they know that these are all pockets of Republicans. So they spread it out like that and they put all the Republicans in the 4th district so that they know that they can carry, the Democrats can carry the other 7 districts. And that's called packing because you're concentrating it in one area. The other thing they could have done is they could have put bits of that 4th into each other district and spread it out so thin that no one party is going to win, and that's called cracking. And we are definitely going to spend some time looking at this concept and going into a little more detail on this. But this is a gerrymandered map. The 4th district is definitely gerrymandered here. Special duties of the House of Representatives, they are responsible for impeaching the president. And what impeaching means is to formally charge with a crime. So what the House does is when you can impeach the president, different officials, judges, and things like that. So what they do is they look at all of the evidence. And their only job is to see, is there enough evidence to take this to trial? They don't actually have the trial in the House of Representatives. They just look at the evidence and vote, yes, there is enough to have a trial, or no, there is not enough. So we've had 2 presidents that have been impeached, Andrew Johnson over the issue of Reconstruction after the Civil War, and then Bill Clinton, he lied under oath, and so he was impeached for that. The other thing, and this is really, really important, and this goes back to that where we talked about the House of Representatives being more or closer, more in tune with what the people in their respective districts want. So if we are going to tax or if we are going to spend, and these are called revenue-raising bills, revenue raising is taxing. Appropriations means spending. We're going to figure out how we are going to appropriate or spread out our money. What are we going to spend on? Both of these have to take place at in the House of Representatives, once again, because they are closer to their constituents. They only serve 2 years. They serve a much smaller number of members, so they're going to be very in tune, and if they make the wrong decisions, we don't have to live with that for very long. Almost as soon as they are elected, they start running for re-election. Just a couple leadership positions in the House of Representatives. The first one is the Speaker of the House. This one is the most influential member in the House of Representatives. On January 3rd, one of the very first things they will do, they already know who they're going to pick when they get there, but the majority party, which always gets to pick the Speaker, will go in. They will have an election. But like I said, this is kind of already a done deal. They will know before they get there who they want. So the formality is the election as soon as the new term starts. They do follow the Vice President in line of succession, which means if something happens to the President and the Vice President at the same time, then they would become President of the United States. Majority Leader, they represent, and I put Republicans on here. I wish I would have left that blank. So it depends on what political party is the majority. Right now it is the Republicans, but that could have changed. They actually anticipated that to change. Currently the Republicans are the majority party. So the Majority Leader will basically help the Speaker of the House and be responsible for leading the Republicans to try and get their political policy or public policies passed. The Democrats will also have a leader, the Minority Leader, and they do the same thing. They are leading the Democrats towards trying to probably stop the Republicans in this case. And we have a assistant leader, which is called a whip. And the purpose of this office is to keep track of votes. The Speaker of the House, Majority Leader, will go to the Majority Whip, and he or she is responsible for knowing what Republicans are going to vote on a bill, who's going to vote against it. They've got to try and get them all to vote the same way to get these public policies passed. The minority also has a whip. So if the Speaker of the House, one of them calls for a vote, a very important vote, the whip is going to let them know, yes, you have the votes, or no, you don't have the votes. And so then they need to go about trying to get those people to fall in line with the political party.